Clausen Family Countdown to Christmas, Book 1, Elf Fairy. Molly and Cam woke early on the first day of December. Traditions are special in the Clausen household, and today marked the beginning of 24 days filled with holiday fun. Mom loved to decorate for the holidays. The house was glowing with the spirit of Christmas. The mantel in the family room was draped with cedar garland and tall red candles. A miniature Christmas village was assembled in a snowy, winter-like setting near the fireplace. Of all the decorations, the Christmas village was the children's favorite. Molly loved the beautiful shops, especially the bakery. Cam liked the tiny people and animals in the village. This year, they would start a new tradition. Mom bought 24 new villagers. Each day, Molly and Cam would select one figurine to add to the village until all were placed by Christmas Eve. Molly was 6, just a year older than Cam. Being the oldest, she would be allowed to choose the first villager. Mom removed an elegant satin box from the mantel. As she opened the box, the children squirmed with excitement. There lay 24 villagers, each nestled in their own satin-lined space. "I choose the elf fairy," said Molly. "She is so beautiful and looks very brave." Molly had a feeling that the elf fairy was special and would protect the others as they joined her in the village. Molly carefully removed the elf fairy from the satin box. She and Cam walked quickly to the tiny village. Molly decided that the elf fairy should be placed on top of the church steeple. Standing high above the village would give the elf fairy a good view to watch over the others. Molly placed the fairy on the church. Suddenly the children were swept into a wild flurry of snow, and gazump landed right into the village. As Molly and Cam stood, they saw the familiar buildings and realized where they were. Finding the church, they looked up. Sure enough, there was the elf fairy standing on top of the steeple. How could this be? Did they shrink? Or did the village grow? How would they get back home? Mom would be frantic when she realized the children were gone. The elf fairy could see that Molly and Cam were very frightened. She flew down from the steeple to comfort them. "Children, do not be afraid," said the fairy. "You are in the Christmas village among friends. My name is Ella. I will show you around the village." Molly took Cam's hand and assured him everything would be okay. The children followed Ella as she led them to the center of the village. Right before their eyes were the beautiful houses and shops, now life-size and magnificent in the snow-covered setting. Molly thought she could smell cookies baking. She turned, and there was the bakery. Ella promised they would visit the bakery later. As Ella led the children past the toy store, skating rink, and candy shop, they marveled at how the tiny village had come to life. "Can we go skating or ride the carousel horses?" asked the children. "Have patience, you will have many adventures before Christmas Eve," promised Ella. "Each day you add a new villager, you will be swept into the magical village." At the edge of the village was a beautiful forest, sparkling with tiny lights near the entrance. Molly and Cam could hear the music playing and the laughter of children. They ran towards the forest as Ella tried to call them back. "Children, you must stop!" shouted Ella. But the music had grown so much louder as the children reached the edge of the forest that they did not hear Ella's warning. Molly and Cam stood at the entrance of the forest. They could see shadows dancing about and followed the joyful music into the grove of trees. Suddenly, the music stopped and the shadows became still. Cam moved closer to Molly, fearful of the sudden quiet. "Hello," said Molly. There was no answer to her call. A rustling sound in the fallen leaves startled the children. Cam turned to see yellow eyes looking back at him. He let out a blood-curdling scream and ran out of the forest as fast as he could. Frozen with fear, Molly could not move. Ella met Cam as he ran out of the forest. "Please, Ella, you have to help Molly," cried Cam. "I will find your sister," said Ella. "Stay right here and do not move, no matter what you hear." This made Cam even more frightened. He watched Ella go into the forest until he could no longer see her. Ella went quietly through the trees. She came upon Molly standing still as a statue. Seeing no danger, Ella moved in front of Molly. She looked into Molly's eyes, only to see a blank stare. Ella opened her wings and wrapped them gently around Molly. "Believe in the magic," she whispered. Slowly Molly focused her eyes on the elf fairy. "Where am I?" asked Molly. "You are in the forest," said Ella. "Cam is waiting and we must go now." Molly followed Ella quickly out of the forest. Cam threw his arms around his sister. "It's okay, Cam," Molly said. "I knew Ella would protect us." "I will protect you, but you must never go into the forest alone," said Ella. "How are we going to get home?" asked Molly. Ella led the children through the village to a house that looked much like their own. "When you open the door, you will be home in your own neighborhood," Ella said. "Tell no one of the village, or the magic will be gone." "We can't wait to come back," said Molly. The children stepped into the house to find Mom waiting for them at the door. "You're just in time for dinner," she said. "Go wash up." As Mom tucked Molly and Cam into bed that night, she said, "Good night, my sweet angels. You were so good today, I hardly knew you were here." Cam and Molly looked at each other and smiled, both wondering what tomorrow's adventure would bring. To be continued.